Bob Dylan Yamaha upright piano. You're wondering what that is. I discovered a long lost Bob Dylan piano about a year ago in New York, and I'm in Ireland, so I'm on the other side of the Atlantic Ocean. I look for music memorabilia. I'm a memorabilia dealer, so I was on the internet looking for Bob Dylan memorabilia, and I came across this picture of a piano, and I had been searching for keywords like Bob Dylan owned instrument, and this picture of a piano popped up. So I was like, what's the story with that? So I investigated a bit further, and I found this woman in New York that was selling this piano, and she said that the piano was owned by Bob Dylan. So I was like, okay. I asked her if she had any documentation to prove Dylan's ownership, and she actually had lots of documentation. She had a document from Yamaha pianos made out to Bob Dylan. Then she had the original invoice from the piano shop that sold the piano to Dylan in 1969, and that document had Bob Dylan's address on it, his home address, 94 MacDougall Street. He obviously doesn't live there anymore. I was like, oh, this is actually a real Bob Dylan owned piano. I thought, okay, I'm going to need to buy this, but it's a piano and I'm in Ireland and the piano's in New York, so logistically it's going to be a nightmare. But the price was right, so I thought I'll just pay the woman the money and I'll figure out the logistics later. And that's exactly what I did. So I got a piano company to pick the piano up and put it into storage. One of my friends happened to be flying to New York. He picked up the paperwork from the lady and brought it back to Ireland. So I had the paperwork in hand. And then I started to do research on the piano to try find some more details about its provenance. I found an article from a journalist who actually lived in the building where Dylan had his personal recording studio. He would sit in a chair in the hall outside of Dylan's studio and listen to Dylan composing his music. And he actually got to know Dylan, and he was in the studio. He got to see, he actually helped Dylan move some pieces of furniture and music instruments from his home into Dylan's studio. And he seen Dylan's upright piano against the wall. And he actually heard Dylan compose a song called Tangled Up in Blue and many other songs for his most important album called Blood on the Tracks. So that's just like that type of provenance is, I was very lucky to come across a guy who actually seen the piano in situ in Dylan's personal studio. And then I also found another guy who had helped Dylan move equipment from his home on 94 MacDougall Street around to his personal studio. His personal studio was just around the corner from his house. So I found two first-hand accounts of two different guys seeing this upright piano in his personal studio. So suddenly the piano evolved from being primarily just a piano that was owned by Dylan, and now I had this added provenance and history, which makes the piano quite an important find and also a very valuable find. Up to that point, no Dylan piano had ever sold at auction, but coincidentally a piano owned by Dylan was consigned to an auction just a few months after me finding this piano. It was consigned to Julian's Auctions, so I was very interested to see what that piano would sell for. The estimation on the piano was like 40 to 60,000, and this was a grand piano, so it was a lot bigger and more awkward than the upright piano that I have. This didn't come with any paperwork. It didn't come with any provenance or history other than a photograph of Dylan using the piano. But it was definitely a piano that was owned by Dylan. And that piano sold in auction for $217,000. So I was pleasantly surprised at the price that it sold for, because the piano that I have has a lot more history than that piano. So I'm estimating this piano that I've found to be possibly worth around $400,000 to $500,000. And at the moment I am looking to loan it to the Bob Dylan Museum in Tulsa, so it can be put on display for the public to enjoy instead of being stored in a warehouse in New York. So I'm trying to find a home for the piano, and if there's anybody out there who is interested in acquiring the piano, go to my website rocksolidinvestments.ie and drop me a message. Let me know if you're interested in buying the piano. Only serious inquiries though. This piano is quite valuable, important, and expensive, so make sure that you're a serious buyer. I appreciate, as a collector, not everybody can afford a piano worth $200,000 or $500,000. So I've created another venture called iconicprizes.co.uk, and I offer collectors the opportunity to own those high valuable pieces for as little as £10. So go over to iconicprizes.co.uk and check out the music memorabilia on offer, and the link is in the description.